Hello friends, this is a video lecture on Introduction to Fermentation. What is fermentation? Fermentation is the process in which the chemical transformation of organic substances into simpler compounds carried out by the action of enzymes produced by microorganisms like bacteria, molds or yeast. The enzymes act by the hydrolysis of composite organic molecules into smaller units or more easily digestible stuff in case of food. For example, the enzyme carbohydratase acts on carbohydrates. That is, enzyme amylase act on starch and convert them into simpler sugars. Another example is of protease, which acts on various proteins and break down into protein molecules, initially into polypeptides and peptides and then into numerous amino acids. The enzyme lipase on various lipids. Enzyme lipase hydrolyzes complex fat molecules into simpler free fatty acids and glycerol, making them available to the organisms. The end product of any fermentation process depends on the process aimed. It can be any of the following end products like biomass production, primary or secondary metabolites of microorganisms, the recombinant protein product by the genetically engineered microorganisms. The term fermentation can be described in various ways. Following are some of the definitions of fermentation which explain fermentation from origin to till date. The bubbling observed when sugar and starchy materials underwent a transformation to alcoholic beverages. This is an original definition of fermentation. Another one, the process in which alcohol was formed from sugar regardless of whether the causative agent was or was not biological. Another, those in anaerobic reactions through which microorganisms obtain energy for growth in the absence of oxygen. This fermentation term was defined by Louis Pasteur. It applies to both aerobic and the anaerobic metabolic activities of microorganisms in which specific chemical changes are brought about in an organic substrate. Almost any process mediated by or involving microorganisms in which a product of economic value produced. This definition is from industrial microbiology point of view. A brief history of fermentation. The invention of the compound microscope in the late 15th, a simple instrument which revolutionized man's knowledge of invisible tiny microbial world and can be considered as the origin of microbiology. A scientific discovery which electrified the scientific world of the time was done by the greatest of the early microbiologists, Antony van Leeuwenhoek in the year 1965. He saw and reported one-celled organisms which he called animalcules. Today they are called as protozoa. Lavoisier in the late 1970s showed the process of transforming sugar to alcohol and carbon dioxide. In the 1810, J. L. Guy-Luesque, on the basis of detailed analysis, specified ethanol and carbon dioxide as the principal product of the decomposition of sugar, summarizing with a well-known equation. The first concrete evidence of the living nature of the yeast cell came out between 1837 and 1838. One of the important features of the yeast that yeast was a living organism that reproduced by budding was explained by Cagniet Latour in France and Squan in the year 1937 and Kurzing in the year 1937 in Germany independently. Louis Pasteur proved conclusively in a series investigation that fermentation was initiated by living organisms. Louis Pasteur in the year 1857 explained that the living organisms are responsible for lactic acid fermentation. Louis Pasteur in the year 1860 demonstrated that the bacteria cause souring in the milk, and later on the role of microorganisms in food spoilage showed the way to the process of pasteurization. In 1877, Pasteur published his famous paper on fermentation entitled Studies on Fermentation. He defined fermentation incorrectly as life without air, but correctly showed specific type of microorganisms carry out specific type of fermentation process and produce specific end products. The term microbiology was first used in English in 1885, long after Pasteur's major discovery. This slide shows the time frame for the different types of fermentation product produced. Thank you.